Welcome to the Botany Bistro, where we're serving up bite-sized botany for you to munch on as you savor the science of plants. I'm Mary, and I'll be your botanist today. Our menu includes an exploration of plants in the Rosaceae family. There are about 4,000 species in this family. I'm sure that you have some of these family members easily recognizable in your environment, whether it be the traditional rose, an apple tree, a raspberry, a strawberry. All of these are members of the Rosaceae. Plants in this family usually feature leaves that have serrated or toothed edges. They're also recognizable by their flower shape. Typically, these flowers have 5 sepals and 5 petals and numerous stamens arranged on the inside. The petals and the sepals are actually fused together at the bottom to form a little cup, and that is also a characteristic of plants in this family. Not to be outdone by their wonderful showy flowers, the fruits are also big and bold. We get lots of delicious, tasty snacks from plants in the Rosaceae family, and some of them even offer more than one harvest. The fruits of plants in the Rosaceae encompass a wide variety of structures that botanists have had fun naming, such as follicles, capsules, nuts, achenes, drupes, and accessory fruits, like the pome of an apple, the hip of a rose, or the fruit of a strawberry. A rose by any other name may not smell as sweet, but you have a lot of choices when you're looking into this family. Let's start off with the namesake of this family, the rose. While we enjoy the colorful blooms of roses and their highly nutritious hip fruits that they produce, these plants have to be handled with caution because of their sharp protrusions that come out of the stem. Now, I'm going to give you a little party trick that you can use next time you're out, and you can actually be the botanist and say, did you know that roses don't have thorns? And you'd be right. Roses do not technically have thorns in the botanical sense. Their sharp protrusions are actually a result of epidermal growth, which means that they're classified as prickles. So roses don't have thorns, they have prickles. But we do have to be cautious. These prickles protect this plant from being eaten by other things, and it can also provide a little bit of adhesion when it's trying to climb up something. The horticulture industry has really gone to town, hybridizing roses in many different sizes, colors, and growth habits. So if you're interested in adding a rose to your landscape, do a little bit of research, see if you can find a native rose variety that can grow in the area that you have. Roses have been used across the centuries as important religious and ceremonial plants, but also in the Victorian era and today as a little bit of a way to send a message. If you're sending someone a red rose, you might be expressing your love for that person, while a yellow rose could put you in the friend zone. I've enjoyed looking at the rose garden in Seattle across from the zoo. And every time I go to visit my aunt there, it's definitely a stop that I want to make and just see all of the different varieties. Some have very fragrant smells, while others have double blooms and no smells at all. So there's a lot to choose from. Our gardens wouldn't be the same without the Rosaceae family. Early in the spring, we get those wonderful bright red strawberries that are one of the first things that tell me, yep, summer camp season's just around the corner. It's been a little bit of a challenge in recent years to establish a strawberry patch. If you don't net these young plants as you are trying to establish your strawberries, they easily get pulled up by herbivores. So it's definitely something that you want to think about, netting or creating some kind of fence structure so that you can protect young plants as they become established. The next delicious fruit that pops up are raspberries. I enjoy the raspberry fruits very much, but I also appreciate this plant for having multiple ways to harvest. And early in the spring, before the flowers come out, you can harvest raspberry leaves. You can dry those or use them fresh to make a tea, and it's wonderful for female reproductive health. So do yourself a favor, plant some raspberries, enjoy some leaves, not all, in the spring because they'll need some to photosynthesize and get them through the rest of the season, but then also enjoy those wonderful fruits. This time of year, we are very fortunate to be able to find blackberries ripening on our woodland walks and around edges of properties as we explore the neighborhood. Blackberries are highly nutritious, and they tend to grow well in lots of different areas. They take up some space, so be sure that you have enough room for this mature plant and that you know that you'll have to do some tending to it to kind of keep it behaved. or else it will grow into a very large thicket. But that thicket could also be a wonderful home for wildlife and provide lots of food in the ecosystem. Popping in a warm blackberry on a hot summer day, it just makes your mouth pucker. It's just a summer essential. I am personally working on expanding my Rosaceae knowledge as I tend to several young orchards around my neighborhood. I have been fortunate enough to be able to help people plant some orchards, help some orchards become established at schools. And as these orchards grow, they will need extra care to be able to harvest the fruits that we all desire. It takes several years for many of our apple and pear and nectarine and cherry trees to become established enough to produce good crops to harvest. And so in those first few years, we are making sure that they don't have a lot of competition for root growth. We are making sure that they're growing straight and tall. We're doing some pruning. And then in the following years, we'll be able to start harvesting and making sure that we are still protecting those plants as best we can with anti-pest and fungal sprays, and also just making sure that they have overall health. There are lots of critters that like to get into our Rosaceae plants because of their high concentrations of nutrients. The goal of my orchard growing is to actually produce my own cider. And here's another interesting fact, was that actually not too long ago, most people were not drinking water at all because of the probability of it being contaminated and could possibly be making other people sick. So even children were drinking cider daily and were not actually drinking water. I'm interested to continue the tradition of cider making, which actually has a very long history in the world. And I'll definitely keep you posted on how my experiments go. I've got my work cut out for me though, keeping my plants from succumbing to fire blight and a myriad of other pest issues, just making sure that I am the one that gets my harvest. If you're thinking about introducing a Rosaceae plant into your landscape, I encourage you to think outside the rose tradition and go for something a little bit different. There are some amazing plants in this family, such as chokecherries, hawthorns, and serviceberries that all do very well in our landscape and provide wonderful habitat for wildlife. As the name would suggest with chokecherries, I don't snack on these directly in the garden, but I do bring them in to be able to make pies and preserves, and they taste so yummy. Other wildlife don't mind the acidity of these berries, the tartness of these berries, and so wildlife will snack on them readily, and it is really fun to see the birds in there playing with the berries. If you're considering adding a hawthorn to your gardenscape, you have lots of varieties to choose from. Hawthorns have a very rich cultural history as well, and so they're the superstar of several historical myths, legends, and stories, and so having one of these close by is a neat way to honor some of those traditions. Hawthorns have a very thorny, and yes, they're actually thorns on this one, unlike the rose. They have a very thorny canopy, which provides protection for wildlife such as birds and small mammals as they raise their young. You may already have a serviceberry growing close by and not even thought about it. They're very popular landscape and street trees. They do well in a lot of different conditions, and they produce an edible berry that tastes actually a little bit like a blueberry. And so if you can beat the birds to the serviceberries, they are really tasty. The flowers on these trees bloom in early spring. They're a wonderful addition to any landscape if you want to add some Rosaceae. Well, I'd love to just sit here and talk to you about plants in the Rosaceae all day, but I'm actually getting kind of hungry and I want to go pick some of those berries. I'm so grateful that you came to join us on the Botany Bistro today. Stay tuned for more Bistro to Go.